A line, you mean, that made us want to cringe? I don't know, one that cracked me up, and it was when I was doing a game called Blaze Blue. And I was playing Bang Shishigami, which is this kind of big, over-the-top guy. And I had no idea, literally I was working directly in Studio One, and I knew I had it, and I finished, they walked me out, they handed me a script, and we just went in and started recording. I had no idea what this was, I just knew it was a game. And at the bottom of the, we were just running the sheet, which means rather than taking one take at a time, you just read the whole page down, just all the dialogue on the page, and then we'll fix it later. And the bottom of it, so I'm just reading one line after another, I get to the bottom and it's, we're gonna have a bang spanking good time. And I like heard it as it was coming out of my mouth. I don't, what did I just say? And I looked at the director and the producer like falling off their chairs laughing. And so yeah, sometimes because if you're in the zone, you're really not paying attention, you're just kind of trying to stay in the moment, and you hear things coming out of your mouth you can't believe you just said. And that was that for me. You guys want to?
I can't think of any specific line, but Tony can attest to this. When we're working on Hunter x Hunter, any scene with Hisoka in it makes me die inside a little bit because I don't like clowns. Like, I'm not afraid of them, but there's just something about...
Creepy pedophile clowns? Yeah, I think so.
Something about Hisoka that is just, every time I see him, I'm just like, can we like turn Keith down? Keith who plays Hisoka. Can we turn him down a little bit? Because he's just so creepy. He plays Hisoka so well that I can't focus on what I'm doing. I have to not hear it.
We literally, when she's coming to the studio, we literally turn his dialogue off so she doesn't hear it.
You've learned at this point.
Yes.
I can't get through it.
I can't really think of any specific lines, you know, kind of sort of like what Tony was saying. Sometimes, you know, you'll just deliver a line and you'll go, oh, that's not how I wanted it to come out. It was weird or just fell flat or whatever, but I can't think of anything specifically.
And as a director, I'm going, okay, that was good. Can we try it again?
Yes, please have me do that again. I'll do it 5 more times to get it right.
Like a pizza real job, you know? More questions? Yes.
Yeah. So like opposite, what's your most memorable?
Wow, memorable.
Do some
Yeah.
stuff day in and day out.
Well, it's interesting because I used my last line in Robotech when I sign autographs, it's to the stars. And for some reason that's always affected me. I like that. I think I like to think myself the dreamer, and that's kind of a dreamer line. And I think, so that's probably the one I like the most, just the most heartfelt. Plus, it was the end of the series, and I knew it was my last day on work, and so it's kind of coming from the heart, because I really like that series.
Yeah, I like really kind of inspirational things that I feel like, depending on how I feel during the day, stuff that kind of resonates with me. So actually one of them, I try to remember specific lines for each character so that, you know, when people are like, can you do a line as this character? I kind of have something in the back of my mind. And one of them is Aladdin's line from Magi the Labyrinth of Magic, and it's, if you mess up, you just have to look for a better way to go. I know that there's one, and I know that you can find it, because after all, you're Alibaba, who I love so much.
A little more boy, please. All right, more questions. Oh, you have Yoshino?
Oh, my character in Gundam, Iron Blooded Orphans, he's a big fan of the ladies, and so he's talking with, I think it's Bryce's character, Eugene. And he has, I can't remember it verbatim, but it's something like, I mean, you know, I would rather have the boobs that are right in front of me as opposed to those that are far away. Okay, Shino, okay.
We get it.
Wait,
Like
okay,
ladies.
you are a manly man. All right. No problem.
I can also talk about, this was one that I had when I was playing Lancer. And it was the first day on the job, and I had to do the call out. He's got this call out. And the way it was spelled, I thought I knew how to pronounce it. So, the line was something like, wait till you get a hold of my, you know, it's the thing. So I read the line, so it's beep, beep, beep. Wait till you get a hold of my gay bulge! And it was, it's Guy Bulgay. Yeah, I got that wrong. I think they kept it somewhere. It's a weird thing we do for money. Yes. Yes. Thank you. don't remember exactly, but it's in the game. It's in one of the games, and it's when Naruto he's letting Naruto know in the spirit world that he's his father, and then has to immediately say goodbye. And there's a series of dialogue there. It's something along the lines of, Naruto, you are my son, and I'm proud of you. And I know that's a simple line, but I'm a dad. And I was thinking of my child, my son, when I was saying that, who I am proud of. He makes movies now. But it was that. Those simple lines is what really, a simple line with a lot of heart is what I really like, and that would be my favorite. Yes?
This is World War III. What would be, I guess, your process for finding the voice of the character? Because I know it's quite a lot, so sometimes different Japanese voices and English. A good example would be the difference between Japanese Goku and English Goku. So how do you know, I guess, it's a transfer of voice from Japanese to English, and how do you find that?
For me, it kind of depends on the company, because I know some companies they don't specifically say that they want close to the Japanese, but there are some that I've worked with before, and I've gotten them because I'll do something close to the Japanese. So I'll start with that, but if I feel like maybe sometimes even the Japanese doesn't totally fit the character, in my opinion, and I'll go with something that, based off the picture, if we have one, which we usually do for anime, specifically, I will go what I think the character would sound like. So like, if she looks like an annoying little brat, I'll do something that's, basically my Nico character is kind of just,
He kind of just talks like this, and he's got a little bit of an attitude, and
stuff like that. So, I don't know, it really depends.
Yeah, I think the Japanese performance can be a good starting off point and seeing how the character acts. And for me, the writing is really key, and just sort of distilling down to what the personality of the character is. And then, I don't know, you just sort of conjure up in your mind what you think that kind of character would sound like. I sort of equated to, if you're reading a novel, Harry Potter or whatever, you have an idea in your mind based on how the characters are written, how they're described, how they act, what they sound like. So then I just take that sounds, that personality, and just sort of channel that through in my performance. And to me, that's what the character is.
Also, you got to remember that what our job is not to mimic, is to adapt and interpret. And the cultural styles of acting are very different. If we were to act in the Japanese style, it would sound it would sound like everything was Dragon Ball Z turned up, But if we were to act in an American style in a Japanese thing, they would feel like we were dull and boring. So we have to take what's there and kind of make it accessible to an English-speaking, English culture. And so a lot of it has to do with focusing on the emotion of the character and trying, there's all the affectations the character has that you want to bring in, but mostly it has to really kind of come from inside. And if you can do a voice that's close enough to that, then you'll get the part. But if you're trying to force it, it doesn't really work. So it's got to come from understanding the emotions of the character and then letting that kind of guide how you sound. And hopefully you sound like enough that you get the job.
Well, I feel like there are parts that I've gotten to where they liked my acting more so than anything, and I didn't really put on too much of a voice, and maybe some other people would have, because if the character is younger, like, I don't sound normally like a 10-year-old girl, and I'm probably not the best. I get cast as them every so often, but I'm not like Cassandra Lee Morris, who naturally sounds like a 10-year-old girl. But if they like the acting or they feel like you embody the character a little bit more, the voice comes second. That's why it's voice acting, not voice acting. So, yeah, I've gotten parts like that.
But Cassandra Lee looks like a 12-year-old
She
girl.
does.
She's tiny little bit.
She's so cute.
She's not. She just got married. More questions? We can dance? No, we can't.
Yeah, I can't dance.
You don't want to see that.
Yes.
What was it like directing Fate Zero and Fate? Did you direct Unlimited Paper?
Yes.
What was it like for both of them, and which one do you prefer?
You're going to be in trouble with Anaplex now. Fate, out of all of the stuff I've worked in my 35-year career, I don't think I've worked on anything better than Fate Zero. It's really my favorite thing. It is so well written from the Japanese standpoint. The characters are so well developed. the story is so interesting, and the heart in it. I like to say it's devastating in every way possible that you want it to be. You know? So that really is my favorite of all the things I worked on. And yes, I did direct that, and literally, you know, working with people like Lucian and all the folks that were on it was amazing, because everybody, we really took the time. One other thing is that Aniplex gave us the time and budget to do it right, rather than rush it like so many of these things are done. So we really spent a lot of time on the nuances and the very, 10, 20 takes was typical, because you just wanted to get it just right, you know? And so that to me is my favorite, probably the best thing. I adapted the series, and usually when I adapt, I'm trying to fix story holes or stuff that doesn't bridge over culturally to Americans or to English-speaking people. And on Fate Zero, I really spent most of my time trying to figure out how not to screw it up. So between the two, I liked Fate Zero the best. Unlimited Blade Works is great because it's a prequel, and I got to reprise my character from Fate's Day Night way back in the day, which was Lancer. And so that was kind of strange, having to direct myself in the main character. I don't generally like to do that. I'm doing it now too on another show. It just worked out that way. But the depth of those stories, I thought, is what made those stories so impactful. The characters have a lot of depth. What's not spoken is probably more important than what is spoken with a lot of these characters. And the story runs very deep and touches on kind of apocryphal stories that we've all grown up with. And so it kind of touches on those. So it elicits interesting emotions, even though you may not know why you're feeling that way, but it does touch on that. Unlimited Blade Works was a little bit more settled, more a little anime, standard anime style, and the high school stuff I thought was a little, could have had more depth, and I think that's something that I wish I'd worked on more on my side. But what I like about Unlimited Blade Works is it's very open-ended. It's left open to continue the story or to look at another angle at it. And the fact that the whole thing came from a visual novel originally gives the author a lot of leeway. So the story really evolves in a lot of different directions that if you were doing a standard anime, you might not be able to do. So those are my favorite. Thanks. Thanks for asking. I like that show. More, yes.
Who would you summon in the Holy Grail War?
Sorry, what?
Who would you summon in the Holy Grail War?
Who would I summon? Wow, Ryder probably. I mean, I like him. Certainly not Archer. He's a jerk. I think it'd probably be Ryder. Yeah. Well, the Ryder from Fate Zero, not Ryder from Limited Blade Works, the different guy. So, yes.
You mentioned working on Dust and Elysian Tale. What did you do on that one?
I was Dust.
Oh, right.
I was Dustin.
I knew I recognized your voice.
Oh, thank you. No, that was a fantastic little, if people aren't familiar with it, it's an indie video game that was almost single-handedly created by one guy who was an animator by trade, and that's why if you check it out, the animation, visually, it's beautiful. It's really gorgeous. And he taught himself how to program for fun. So he was making this game. It was just like supposed to be a little demo thing that he was making to teach himself programming. And then it just became this massive beast. And just achieved this epic scale. And then he did have to get people to help him out with the music and voiceover to cast it and direct it. But everything else, it's all him, Dean Dodrell. And it's a really just a massive undertaking and again, great piece of work. And very, very proud. I would have been proud to have been townsperson B in it. So it was just, again, a bonus that I played such the main character in the story. But thank you for bringing up. Love that project. Well, at least for when we're dubbing Japanese animated series into English, we're working with much stricter technical constraints as far as timing, and we're working off of what has already been animated, and I like to phrase it as we're sort of fitting little puzzle pieces together, but within what's already there. Whereas with the game, typically there's a little bit more freedom to perform it how you like. Sometimes, again, even with the Japanese games, though, you're working within, can't be over 5 seconds long or whatever for this line. But usually, it's not so exact. So yeah, I would say technically, it's just a very different beast between dubbing and most video game work. We like working. We all like working. I feel both are very rewarding for different reasons. When you can get a dubbed project to really sort of flow and not feel like you're dubbing to picture and get it to sound natural. That's very rewarding. Getting to see the finished animation right there can be very inspiring and really cool to look at. But then, yeah, there is, again, as I said, there is a little bit more freedom you can have in your performance with most video games. So I don't know. For me, I prefer good writing, whether it's in wherever, video games, animation, dubbing, commercials, usually not commercials, just by the nature of it. But so yeah, I love it all.
That's a key too. If you want to make an impact in the world, in the entertainment industry especially, learn to write. That it all starts with the writing, and all of these sweeping things that everybody goes, that was wonderful, all started with somebody wrote those words, and that's where the key is. And a good writer can make a lousy idea sound great. So yeah. Also, the other difference is we move much faster. When we're doing video games, you generally don't have the entire script in front of you. You just have your dialogue, and budgets are such that we have to move quickly. So, for instance, when I'm doing an anime, if I'm directing an anime, we'll be booked at like 35 or 40 lines an hour is what we're trying to accomplish. For me to accomplish a video game, especially a Japanese RPG that we're localizing, we have to get 100 lines an hour now. So it's one every second and a half. And that includes doing extra takes when it's done. So the focus that these guys have to have is intense. It's very intense, and literally you have to get in the zone because you're just doing one line after another. And they're so good at it that you can't tell. So that's the other side. It's a lot more. You really got to focus in order to do it right.
I find myself more physically exhausted.
It's exhausting.
Like, even if you're not doing battle efforts, it's still like, because you're just there, like you said, focusing the entire time. After 2 hours, like I want to go home and take a nap, honestly. That happens with some anime too, but more so with video games, I think.
Yeah, I've done voices of all the Dynasty Warriors since they started, and I literally limit those sessions to 3 hours because I can't go beyond that, and I can't talk for another 2 after that. It's just so intense and fast. So fun game though. We'll talk. Yes.
So how long would you do like in the both just doing voices at that point?
Well, okay. Union rules are it's a 4-hour session. I can't work you for more than 4 hours. A non-union for anime, it's usually 2-hour minimum. We never pull you in the studio for more than 3 or 4 hours, and then maybe you'll have, I don't know, I'm directing most of the time, so maybe you'll have 2 or 3 2-hour gigs in a day, or is it a lot more intense for you?
I did it for Kill la Kill. They had me do a week where I think I did like 1 or 2 5-hours.
Kill la Kill?
Not in a row. It was
Oh my God.
It was like 2 hours and then like an hour break and then 3 hours, and I was like, we can't do this anymore, guys. Like, I am going to die. It was intense, and after that week they didn't do it anymore.
Yeah.
But it was rough.
Try screaming at the top of your lungs for 3 hours straight. So you have to scream every 90 seconds. See how much voice you have left at the end of 3 hours.
Well, that's per session. I remember I had a very busy month where I think I was working with a director on one project in the morning for 4 hours, and then I'd come into Bang Zoom and do a video game for them for 2 to 3 hours. So it was 7+ hours sometimes a day. Again, not straight, not on one project, but as much as you can fit in.
We did some new loop-ons earlier this year, and I think I had like 3, they had to get the whole thing done in a month. So I think I had at least 3 or 4 8-hour-long sessions.
Yeah, you told me about that.
That's an easy voice for me, because loop-on's way up here. So it doesn't hurt my voice, so I can do it forever, but that's a long time. You're like really, it sounds like you're just sitting talking on a microphone, but it is exhausting, like collapse when you get home exhausting.
I've done not many, but a few audiobooks.
Well, it's coming over these speakers, that's why we're hearing it, yeah.
But I've done a few audiobooks, and that work is especially challenging for me because I'm a spaz. I work at I do the sprint very well, not so much the marathon, which is what audiobooks are. But with audiobooks, you are in a booth by yourself sometimes, self-engineering. For and as long as you can go, you got 6-7 hours until you lose your voice, and then you go back the next day and you do it again until it's done.
But generally, how much you work within like the week always varies because you don't always have a job that week. Like there are times when I'll go a month without a job, and then the next month I'll have like 2 sessions a day for 2 weeks straight. So it really depends on how much work there is and how much you get.
If you're lucky, you're working every day, at least 4 to 6 hours a day, if you're lucky. But it takes a while to get to that. A lot of competition where you come from. There's at least 4 people I know sound just like me. Yes?
So I was wondering for emotional scenes, like where you get your inspiration from, especially some of them where you won't experience it in real life, like Lancer dying, Waver and Rider, the scene with Superman.
Yeah.
And I don't want to give spoilers for the movie, but the comedian, that sort of thing.
Well, I've done a lot of really emotional series. Your Lie in April, I play Subaki in that. Love Live had some pretty emotional stuff. Kill la Kill had emotional stuff. Hunter x Hunter's had some emotional stuff so far. And I'm sure there's more coming. But yeah, for me, and Sword Art Online 2 is Yuki in that one. For me, if there's something that I can't find that resonates within me just from personal experience, like usually when I find something good in my opinion, whether it's like a song or a movie or a TV show, if I can cry after watching, the media, that's a good performance for me. And so a lot of the times for these emotional scenes, I will have watched it and I'll have cried, so that is kind of my inspiration from it. But if not, I don't find anything directly relatable, I will kind of find something that's sort of relatable, or like I'll try to put myself in the character's shoes and anything. Sometimes I actually cry, sometimes I don't, but it's, we get it to where it's at least believable if it's not something that I truly, that truly resonates with me. I've cried during most, like everything in Your Lie in April, whenever Subaki's crying, that's me like legit crying, because I don't know, I don't relate to that character from what she's actually going through, because I've never had like unrequited love and stuff like that with a childhood friend. It's a very anime thing to have happened. So I've never been through that, but I just felt for that character so much, and I just, just going through her journey was really special for me. So that's for that character and other characters specifically.
Yeah, I will at times gently rag on the method technique, especially, again, in terms of voiceover, there's so many scenes that we've done which we will never encounter in our real life. That'll never happen. So what do? You again, to quote Meisner, Sanford Meisner, you are living truthfully in imaginary circumstances. So maybe you haven't gone through that exact situation before, but I think, to me, so much of it is empathy. You empathize with that character, and I don't know, it's a mysterious process. How you get yourself there, I can't really explain that. That's part of the actor's
Well, I teach it, and I use Meisner to teach, but look, our job as actors is to communicate emotion and to connect emotionally so that you'll care about my character, you care about my character, and you'll care about the story, and you care about the story, you'll watch it over and over again. So our job is to connect emotionally. So what we have to do is feel the emotion of the character. Even if we've never been in a place where somebody's about to shove a spike down your throat from another dimension, there's a feeling, that the character's feeling an emotion. It's going to be fear, anger, revenge, whatever. So you got to get yourself feeling that and focus on that, and then let the rest of it just be circumstance. So the more that you can feel the fact that you're crying in the studio, that's really important, because you can hear the difference. You can hear if a person's smiling on their face or not. You can hear it. You can tell, even though you're not watching them. So just actually putting yourself in the emotional experience of the character of the moment, because emotions, we're human, we all feel them, we know what they are, and they're not, there's, you know, only so many handfuls of them, and there are combinations of those. So as long as you can get that, at least a semblance of that feeling going inside of you, the line is likely to come out in a way in which we can use it. And the more you actually feel it, then it's just gold. If you can make the direct, I know when I'm doing well, if I'm doing Naruto, Minato and Naruto, and I've got Mary Elizabeth who's directing, with tears in her eyes, I know I've done my job. You know, it's kind of like that. So, if I have tears on my job, then I definitely know I've done my job. Yes, and then you.
Have you ever met any of the Japanese cast of any of your work?
I have. I met the actress who plays Ryuko in Kill la Kill at Anime Expo in Los Angeles a few years back. We did a big Kill la Kill event, and they were premiering the first episode of the Kill la Kill dub, and the actress for Ryuko and Satsuki happened to be there. And I actually, I was going into the exhibit hall to buy stuff, because I like buying stuff, because I'm a fan of anime and video games, so. And the producer for Kill la Kill walks out, and she's like, oh, did you want to meet Amiko Shimizu? And I was like, sure, of course. So I'm just standing there waiting for her to finish up with some fans who wanted to take pictures with her. And I'm wearing my Ryuko jacket, it's the track jacket with like a skull on the back, and she immediately recognized it when she came over. And Hiroe, the producer, finally introduced us, and she's like, oh my gosh, and she sort of fangirling over me, and it was a little weird, because I was like, I'm trying not to fangirl over you right now, like, what is my life? I'm so confused. And we don't speak each other's languages, so we had to have Hiroe translate for both of us, and one of the things she said to me, which is something I'll never forget, is I guess she had said that she was glad to have someone to share with her pain, because of all the screaming we both had to do in the show, so. That was really special for me, and later on, you know, we got together again with the cast and the cosplayers that were there representing the show, and she called over to me to stand right next to her while we were taking pictures, so it was really cool.
I've not met cast members, I've met some creators. I got to, 2 years ago, I got to meet the creators of Fate Zero and Limited Blade Works, and that was a thrill. Again, we're talking through interpreters, so there's not a lot. But I did have a funny experience. I was at a convention in Denver, and I met the creator of Lucky Star. And I played Konata's father in Lucky Star, who's a very pervy character. And they introduced me at a bar at the convention. They introduced me to him, and he goes, oh, sit down. And I thanked him for creating this and for the work. And he asked me through an interpreter, so who do you play? I said, I play Konata's father. He went, and then he bought me a drink. So that was
Yeah, I also met I've seen a lot of character designers at conventions too, and one of the first out-of-state conventions that I did was SoccerCon in Seattle.
That's where I met this person.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
They always have the best guests there. At one of my first out-of-state conventions at that con, and so the character designer for Magi was there, and I really, really wanted, like, you know, I'd love to get drawings of all the characters I work on if I meet the artist, and I had specifically asked one from this character designer, and they're like, okay, so he gives one of the cheeky sheet boards to draw on, and he kept it overnight and actually like worked on it. It was colored in like blue highlighter or Copic marker or something like that, but he did this like really cool drawing of Aladdin from the second season for me, and I've got it hung up on my wall. So it's really special. I almost cried when he gave it to me because I was like, oh, this is like really special. This is more than I ever could have asked for.
Yes, we can boy and girl up to.
A lot for me.
I just did upstairs, not to lie. Yes.
Yeah. I was a kid. I was like 13 when Robotech was playing in Australia. Really enjoyed it. It's very nostalgic for me now. I see my kids now really enjoying anime. How do you find that Robotech influenced the flood of anime that we have today?
I don't know about here in Australia, but in the United States, it's everything. It was the linchpin that opened up the gate, and a lot of it has to do with Carl Masek, who created it, and innovatively threw 3 shows together in order to basically, the reason was that they sold a show with more episodes than they had, so they had to create more somehow. So they combined all these shows, and the story that he wove for it was so impactful. It really opened up everything. That was what brought anime first to the mainstream. And it took, another 20 years for it to really become mainstream, but to me, it's the seminal moment where the modern anime, what we watch today, really began there. And I was just so fortunate to have it be my first series job ever.
Thank you for that.
It was my second voiceover job ever, and my first series anime. So I was very lucky to be part of it. But if it was without Robotech, I've said this before, without Robotech, I don't exist as an actor. I would not have had a career. Simple as that. So. Yes.
What's the most challenging role?
Most challenging role we've had to play. Harry from Gungrave for me. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you.
I love you going. I love the anime and the game.
Well, thanks. Harry, I played young Harry, and the reason is I never played a villain before up until because of Robotech. I always played the young hero, you know. But now I'm playing a kid who's a bad guy, but he's got to be likable. You got to like him. He's got to be attractive. He's got to be someone that you care about. And it was really difficult to walk that fine line between a total jerk and someone who's too nice to be doing the things that he's doing. And then at the end, at the end of my segment, before they jump years, the older version is played, the older guy is played by a different actor, and I killed my brother. And he has a complete personality breakdown. It was really the most challenging day in the studio I've ever had as an actor, and it was probably the most fun because of that. Because the challenge is really what makes it like cool, you know, it's done. So that was really it. And hardly anybody's seen it, so thank you.
For me, it's definitely Kill la Kill. Not just because of all the screaming, but because I was so new when I got cast as that in that show. I had done like 3 or 4 professional projects at that point, and it was probably the 3rd anime I ever worked on. And I'm normally a pretty quiet person. I've grown a little bit since that show, I like to think.
A little?
Tony knows that more so, because I worked with him the longest, I think. But that was like, because it came out around the same time as Attack on Titan, as far as the dub goes in America. And they were kind of, there was a little bit of competition going on. So they were trying to like really, really show off with Kill la Kill, and me being so quiet and so new. I was like so scared the entire time, and Hidoe, the producer, was kind of on edge because of the competition between Attack on Titan and everything else, and she was a little bit cranky sometimes. We have a really good relationship now, but she was really on edge for that one. She was very under stress, and so in return, the director Alex Von David was also under a lot of stress, and which put me under a lot of stress, and it's just, they really threw me into the deep end with that one, and I had no idea. It was under sink or swim, you know, so I worked as well as I could on it. I grew a lot, I learned a lot.
Killed it. You killed it.
I killed it.
You just absolutely got it great. Yeah.
But you can like actually hear how strong my voice gets over, at least I like to think so, how strong my voice gets over the course of that show, and it's really helped me sustain like being loud in other shows, and I forgot what the actual question was, but hardest thing we ever worked on. Yeah, but yeah, it's just all the screaming, because I'm not really well versed in screaming. I still probably don't scream correctly, but you know.
But all that matters is that you emotionally scream correctly. The rest
Yeah.
you can do technically.
Yeah.
As long as you get the emotion.
Yeah, so that was a really hard trip for me. I was surprised I didn't die after that one, honestly.
Well, I see you walk out, because I didn't work on it. I see you walk out, we were in the studio across the hall, and she'd walk out just like, Alex, the director, would come out going, oh my God. And Haraway would smoke a cigarette.
Yeah.
So, more questions?
I ran quickly.
Oh, you have one, that's right.
Well, the one I know, the one that I can't talk about,
Oh.
the true, you know, video game role, 4 hours, juggling in accents, the true director, really tough. But of the ones I could talk about, you know, Taco Joe from Charlotte, I remember was kind of challenging because he, which Tony directed me on, because he, at first impression, has a very kind of stiff, formal demeanor, but I didn't want him to be, you know, always talking above and past, you know, the other characters. So, you know, as we went on trying to figure out those places to kind of add those nuances and to kind of bring him down and relate emotionally, you know, to his friends. You know, I think I'm pleased with where we got it to. I just remember it was challenging at first. But yeah, just juggling those different elements of a deceptively simple character, except not.
The simple ones always get you. We have like one or two more questions. Yeah.
There are many characters that I worry think that really go and they are maybe characters that maybe actually bring up Jesus, but you would actually know someone that maybe would go
What's there? Ones that aren't. For me, one of my very favorite anime that kind of got me into anime was Fruits Basket. So honestly, anybody in Fruits Basket. I haven't been paying too much attention to ones that haven't been dubbed, honestly, because I just don't have the time to watch very many of them. Because it's hard enough keeping up with Hunter x Hunter and how many episodes are in that one. So I honestly don't know for that one. But I've seen a lot of like cool ones that look cool. I just don't know too much about them.
For me, as far as ones already dubbed, my first anime ever was a little series called The Slayers. There's a character in that series called Zelgadis, who was just my favorite. He was really soft and mysterious, but powerful. You knew he was powerful. He didn't have to have any efforts at all. He was just completely serene because he could kick your ass. So I know Crispin Freeman has a lockdown on that role. I'm not implying I would ever take that from him, but that would be a really cool role. As far as series or projects that have been dubbed, what's the next Ghibli film coming out? How about anything in an upcoming Ghibli dub? Yeah, that.
Yeah, I don't know much about what's not been done because I'm in the booth every day directing whatever's in front of me. But what's dubbed, and I'll agree with you, any Ghibli film, I'm there. From stuff that has been dubbed, I auditioned 3 times for Cowboy Bebop. 3 times. I was twice. I was actually brought in to read for Spike. And obviously Steve Bloom got it. And that's just any character in that, I wish I could have played a character in that show. I think it's one of the coolest shows ever made. And I didn't even get a bit part. In fact, I just did a big Bebop event at Anime Expo this year. Because I was the only high-profile actor in LA that wasn't in the show, I got to host. And I was telling Barry, he says, "You never cast me, you never cast me." He says, "Oh, I'm so sorry, I forgot." So maybe I don't know. I'd love to, if they ever brought back Bebop, I'd want to be in it. Somehow.
Remastered extended edition.
No, they'd have to be new stories, that's never going to happen, so. And one more question, yes?
Yeah, just wondering if you have some kind of like tips or techniques in terms of the voice, like looking after the voice and when it comes to doing like the screaming parts, the normal parts. Yeah, just looking after the voice. Breathe properly. No, I'm serious. I mean, it's not a matter of just breathing. You have to breathe from the diaphragm. You have to push your voice over your throat so it's up. Instead of, here, you gotta put it, here! And it's a difference. It's a lot less strain on it. But there's still nothing you can do that isn't gonna make your voice die after a while. But what I do is I make sure I'm breathing properly, make sure I take plenty of breaks. I insist on at least 5 minutes every hour. At least 5 minutes every hour. I take a sip of water in between every line. So it's always hydrated, always breathing properly, and if it starts to hurt, say so. And take a break, stop. If it's starting to hurt, that's your body telling you, don't go any further, okay? Because you can get polyps in your throat, and if you get that, that's nasty. It ruins your voice. There's only 2 ways to get rid of it. One is there's some treatments, and then you cannot speak for 6 months at all. And then maybe they'll go, Dora had those. That's why Dora sounds the way she does. And then, or surgery. Those are your 2 choices. So breathe. Make sure you're breathing right.
Yeah, all that, and then I like drinking a lot of tea in the booth, keeping hydrated, just in general, honey. There's this Chinese cough syrup called Minjong Keifakoa, which is like kind of a throat coat. A lot of people use it as like this miracle cure. I think it might be more of a placebo, honestly, but it feels good for the moment.
But it doesn't stop damage. So even if you're not feeling it, you're still straining.
Yeah. It just kind of soothes for a little bit.
Oh yeah, scales, do you sing? Okay, do scales. There's a really good warm-up too that I use is, it's weird guys. Ooh, like that. So you start way up in your head, ooh, I rub it down your chest. I know it's odd, but it really warms up your voice. And don't warm up in the car, ever, ever. Because it's really, you're in a bad position, and with all the extra noise, you end up overcompensating and straining your voice instead of warming it up. So you want to not do it in the car.
Well, actually, you could probably explain it even better.
Sorry,
There's,
I teach this stuff, so.
there's also a way to breathe with, using your diaphragm.
Yeah.
And it's supposed to that to push it out from your stomach.
I'm fat, so it's easy. That's really, you should be breathing. If you notice, if you breathe wrong, the top chest isn't moving. It's all here, and there's all your power is here.
I think isn't it a good exercise to practice that if you lie on your back?
Yeah, flat on your back, back against the ground, knees bent, and it forces you to breathe correctly. And you do
Put
your
like a book there and just watch it go up.
calisthenics. It's first one. All right, cool. I think we're out of time, correct? Oh, we have 5 minutes. Excellent. More question. We were told that we've done a quarter till, but cool. Yeah. We'll keep going. Yes.
Have any voice roles forced you to like step out of your bounds or to like exploring other genres or something, like games or anime or things like that?
Well, as actors, we'll work anywhere there's a paycheck. But yes, we all work in all of those venues. Most voice actors make their living as a combination of them. So, for instance, one of the things that I'm about to do is hire an agent to take me into the commercials. I haven't done commercials in about 20, 30 years, so I want to get back into that. Anime led me into video games, and video games led me into original animation. So now I work in all of those places, and occasionally I get to do a movie. So yeah, as you go, it spreads out. It's the only way to make a living is to combine all of those things.
I would say more so than a particular role is the people who you end up working with as a result of any particular project. You know, and if you show yourself as reliable and you do good work, again, it's a pretty small group of people, you know, relatively, who do this, especially all the time. And if you show yourself as reliable, you know, people go, oh, have you found this person? Have you used this
There's
person?
maybe a couple of hundred of us in the country. There's maybe 12 or 13 anime directors in the country. I'm one of them. So it's a small community.
Word of mouth, you know, your work will again get around, and people will want to work with you because of that.
In the back.
Yeah, I was wondering, as voice actors, how do you guys normally, you know, make time, for example, for your family or for your friends or anybody like around that time? You could say?
Well, it's a job. It's a job like any other job. So we work during the day and I'm home at night. Having dinner with my wife. So I'm in the booth from like 9 in the morning to 6 or 7 in the evening, and then I go home. It's just a regular job, and it serves as that. We're not making movies where you're off 14 hours a day off in some mountain somewhere. It's the nice part of it. We work in an air-conditioned place. We don't have to be outside in the dirt. We still get to act, and we're home for dinner. So that's a great part of the job. Camera actors don't have it that easy. So
I will say it can create complications as far as making plans. You know, we've run into, you know, oh, okay, so let's have dinner tomorrow afternoon. Oh, you know, because it's so much of the business it happens very fast, and oftentimes we'll get bookings very last minute. Oh, can you come in and do this time? And you go, sorry, honey, I got a job, so I guess we'll have to again do lunch at that place another time. But yeah, it's usually, you know, flexible, and yeah, you're not gone all day.
it's always the worst time too.
I know.
I haven't had an audition request in weeks. I got 3 as soon as I got here. I don't have a microphone here. I can't do it.
No, it's the same with me. It's probably the most auditions for my agency in a while, and of course it's while I'm here, and it's difficult to get those recorded. I gotta take the bed spread and just kind of pull it over my head and create a little fort, and it feels really silly, and the mic's in there, and it's all kind of just with the computer. But whatever you got to do to make it work.
The trick is what actors tend to do is make it their entire life about acting. So during the day they're doing the jobs, in the afternoon they're at a class, in the evening they're at a meetup, and it's great when you're first starting out, but unless you have a full experience of life, it's really hard to portray that as an actor. So as normal as we can get it to be, we can. But you have to understand that our jobs last, well, as an actor, it lasts a day, 2 days, 4 hours. So you're in constant search for work, and that's where it gets troublesome, because I gotta get these 15 auditions done before I go out to dinner, or before I go to bed tonight, or something along those lines, and that's when it gets a little difficult. Yes?
What was the driving force that got you into this?
Driving force that got to this, it's a sickness. I always wanted to be an actor. I mean, from a small child, I sang in the choir in 5th grade, and I got a standing ovation, and went, that's what I want to do. And I never looked back. I was always trying to teenage drama workshop. I was doing plays in college. I took a theater degree, and I didn't get there. I didn't finish college, but I took it as a theater major. And when I stepped in, I just went for it. And so it was just always been something I need. And I say it's a sickness because it's a need. There's so much bullshit involved in doing this, and so much crap and terrible people you have to deal with sometimes, that you have to love it. This has to be coming from inside of you, or you're just not going to survive. It's too much
anguish.
Yeah.
For me, as a child, I was very, 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 very shy. And as it turned out, acting in school plays was a great way to sort of combat that shyness and really come out of my shell. When my mom noticed this and signed me up for acting classes in our local town. And so I found the joy for acting that started there. And then voice acting, I didn't realize was a thing until years later when I was watching anime and I went, wait, that voice I recognized from the other, wait, that's the same person. Oh, there's a person who does the voice. So from there on, I thought, well, how do you do this? And I started recording myself and improvising little skits and creating characters, and I thought, this is the coolest thing. You can play a multitude of different characters and ages and sizes, and it doesn't matter what you look like, and this is the coolest thing ever. I want to do this. I want to make this my life. And I did.
For me, I feel like we're going down the line of experience here. But I was very, very cripplingly shy. I didn't take quite as many acting classes as I probably should have being in this industry. But I eventually had to push myself to do it because I was just so incredibly stage shy.
I'll deal with this.
I would go in for classroom
Take it
speeches
easy.
and I'd just shake the entire time and stumble the way through it when it was finally my turn, and then go run to the bathroom and cry afterwards. That's how shy I was about speaking in front of people. So my driving force to getting into this is just how much I love cartoons and video games. So that's what helped push me to want to do this more and take more classes and kind of get over my shyness. And I've come a long way since then, obviously, because otherwise I'd be crying doing this. I wouldn't be able to do this the entire time. But and I loved animation so much that I actually have a degree in animation. I haven't done anything with it, but I've got a degree, and that's all I'm honkered about, honestly. So. And now I'm doing this, and honestly, I think I love this way more than I would have doing animation. Because I'm not a huge CG fan. I like hand-drawn stuff, and it's all going CG now, so I was like.
But as an animator, you're acting with your hand.
Yeah.
Well, acting with your body is much easier.
Yeah.
Okay.
Less hand cramps for sure.
Yes.
But yeah. We have autographs right after this.
Yes, so come down, come see us, and thank you so much.